Hey, good morning, Christopher. How are you?
Good morning, John. Doing well, doing well. Nice to meet you face to face.
Good. So, my background, real quick, is I had a financial planning firm in Austin. I focused on retirement income planning, tax planning. Mostly, I sold what's called fixed indexed annuities.
Sure.
I don't know if you're familiar with those. Almost, they're real safe. You can't lose your principal. And a law firm gave me a chunk of money in March of 21, and so I ended up having a capital gain event, which caused me to begin a deep dive in the subject of opportunity zones.
Sure.
The 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which was implemented in 2018, designated each state could choose the lowest income census tracts, and it's an incentive to get private equity to invest in areas they might have otherwise overlooked.
Sure.
So what I did when I sold my company, I had $54 million in business on the books, and then I had a no compete for 2 years. So I bought a motorhome. I traveled 17 states looking at these opportunity zone locations, and I chose Rockport because one, it just stuck out as a great place. When you think of low income, you think of inner city, Houston, Third Ward, that
Sure.
sort of thing. Where Rockport was where Hurricane Harvey made landfall. Do you know Rockport by chance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm familiar, and I could understand why you would want to develop anything there. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a number one fishing destination. The arts community's here, but I bought an old hotel, and the incentive is to the investor is you get to defer your capital gain bill till 2027.
Okay.
You still owe it, you still pay it, but in theory, you're using the money for the next 4 years instead of Uncle Sam. And the big two incentives are when you sell, if you've been in it for 10 years or more, then all your gains are coming out income tax free, like a Roth IRA,
Sure.
and there's no recapture of depreciation along the way.
Okay.
So it's really ironic that so few CPAs and very few real estate people and professionals have taken the time to really understand the tax incentive, but a lot of money is moving, a huge amount of money, and you can be any capital gain, crypto, stocks, sell your business, inheritance. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
Okay. Man, that's a really good deal. Okay, so what is the lockup period on this fund?
Well, if you invest capital gains, so you don't have to invest capital gains, but to get that big tax incentive, you have to invest eligible capital gains.
Sure.
So in my case, when I sold my company and I decided to deploy a percentage of my gains, so it's not an all or nothing.
Okay.
So that lockup period, to answer your question, is 10 years.
Okay.
We are going to do a cash out refi in year 3, and that's within the guidelines. It's not a compliance. We're going to do a cash out refi once we've built this new resort and return about 58% of the capital to the investors in year 3.
Okay.
That's our goal. No guarantees.
Sure.
I mean, it's a real estate deal at the end of the day. But if it's not eligible capital gains, you can exit anytime.
Okay. Okay.
So I wanted to be sure you're clear that so far over half the equity I've raised is not eligible capital gains. It's like Roth money, IRA money, and I just brought on a co-GP to get me to the finish line for this new concept that we came up with called the Blue City Paraíso, which is a mixed-use rooftop lounge, high-end upscale spa,
Yeah, I saw
conference
that.
center.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw
Okay,
the
good.
renditions, the digital renditions, and everything of it. Looked nice. Now I've got to ask on the Coastal Bend Fund here. What is or the Opportunity Zone Fund? What is your minimum investment increments?
50,000.
Okay, all right, that's not so bad. I tell you, I've been talking to a lot of fund managers lately, looking at minimum 100, like minimum 100,000. You can't even look at it. So now, how long How long have you been building funds on your own? I mean, just for yourself?
Actually, this is my very first fund, the Coastal Bend, but I'm launching my second one. This actually it's in the works right now, and it's a very unique space that I know very, very well, and it's called Core Fund 2. I'll tell you briefly about it if you have time.
Sure.
My first fund is a Reg 506C.
Right.
So I have only accredited
investors. Sure.
This next one, the crowdfunding is open to non-accredited, but here's the business model. And I have 30 years experience in this space. We're buying property at tax sales. In fact, I just bought one over there near you in Spring Branch.
Nice.
Last week. You know, they sell property at the courthouse steps if you don't pay your property taxes.
Sure.
I bought a property in Comal County. I don't know if that's where you live.
Sure, it's right there. Yes, right there.
And I had first one I bought in years. But anyway, what's got me so excited about it is they've transitioned these live auctions the first Tuesday of every month to online auctions.
Oh.
So in the past, you can they're always held the first Tuesday at 10 a.m. And you were limited. You can only be at one county for the sale.
Sure.
And now, so many in Texas as of September, approximately 50 counties have transitioned to online auctions. So I was at 5 auctions a week ago. Tomorrow.
Love it.
November. And I got out real early on a 19-acre piece down in Atascosa County.
Sure.
Just south of San Antonio.
Wow.
On the river, 19 acres.
Oh, wow.
I got out at 28,000. It went for 42,000, worth a couple $100,000 easy.
Right.
So the business model is buying at 20 cents on the dollar if it's not a homestead. In other words, land or commercial, there's only a 6-month right of redemption. So that if you're the high bidder, the prior owner has a 6-month right of redemption to pay you what you pay plus 25% interest.
Gotcha.
So that's my new launch, and I'll send you something on that as well if you want to take a look at it.
Actually,
have any ideas?
I'm very interested in that one, and I'll tell you why. The way I got into investments, definitely, especially if you can be a non-accredited investor, $2,500 minimum investment. That works for my crowd, and let me explain why. I do a lot of things, and yes, I go and buy businesses. 3 years ago, I was homeless, man. I don't know if you've watched any of my videos or any of that. I spent most of my life in federal prison. Yeah, I spent most of my life in federal prison for, hang on, let me explain. Growing weed in mushrooms in my 20s. Here in Texas.
Permian Basin?
Sure. Well, yes. As a matter of fact, I was right out of Odessa and everything else, and I grew directly for the dispensaries in the states that were legal. It just happened to be that once the states started legalizing, they could not meet the demand. So they would reach out to small-scale farmers and say, "Hey, would you be willing to grow for us, and we'll take care of everything, pay you X amount of dollars per whatever." And it worked really, really well. Anyhow, that was in the 20s. I'm 40s now. Whole nother deal. But when I came home, I didn't know what in the heck to do professionally because, I'd been in business all my life, but can't go into that. That was a whole nother thing. So what are we going to do? Don't get me wrong. I've also owned many other businesses throughout that time, marketing companies and whatnot during that time period. But that's how I made my money, was doing that. When I came home, I thought, well, how am I going to get into a real life, a legitimate real life? And I started a decentralized private equity fund. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Crypto was kind of on the uprise. People were just kind of coming into it. NFTs had just kind of become a thing. 2020 was there, and everybody was locked up and down and making stimulus money. And I thought, hey, maybe there's a group of people that are like me. Regular people who make a regular income, who if they could put together a little bit at a time, over a little bit of a time, then we'll be able to go do big things, right? Thing is, that's not legal in the United States unless you're an accredited investor or one of your little 35 members that you can be of a non-accredited investor or whatever for a Reg D. So anyway, I thought, well, how am I going to do this? So I wanted to do a global enterprise and make that available. So we created an NFT project is what it was. It was called the Rich Wolf Club. And that was what started our centralized organization. Once we got a group there where people came in and bought and purchased and did what we did, we eventually had the funding to go and start our legal entity, right, in the United States. So we did that, and we started going out and using the funds to do small private equity deals. And some of it was venture capital, where we're going out and helping a small startup do something for a small percentage of it, and we just draw a little bit of revenue every month. None of it was really huge deals, but it's huge when it comes out to a quarterly distribution for people that are in countries that, $400 or $500 saves their life, right. So that's kind of that's my history with funds and fund management and everything else. Since then, it's become business acquisition, going and buying and acquiring small to medium-sized businesses worth between $1 and $5 million SDE per, annual. And that's what I try to do is, pick them, because that usually, if they're that size, I don't have to deal with private equity firms competing with me, and I don't have to deal with Joe Schmo trying to compete with me over a $100,000 franchise. If it's between the $1 and $5 million mark, I know they've got a full staff, they've got a full management, a C-suite team, right, that's going to be taking care of everything, and all I'm actually doing is an equity purchase. So, it's pretty simple. Every now and then it's an asset sale, and then it's just my company goes and purchases the assets, and then that gets rolled right around, and you're going to make money off of the asset sale. So, either way, that's pretty well what I do in this space. So, yes, I would love for you to send me some information on all of your funds, right? But especially this one, because my crowd are the people who that's what they've got, $2,500, $3,000, $5,000. They don't have more than that. But they're looking for a real return. They're looking for something that will help them at that level,
Well, I think it's maybe a really good fit, and I'd like to figure out how we can collaborate once you take a look at it. The returns are of 12% pref and equity ownership in the real estate, so
sure,
it's a pretty big upside. I was curious while you were doing time, how much time you did.
Oh, it was off and on. That's the whole thing. It was off and on because the way they keep you in the system. You do your time, you come home, you're on some sort of little thing. They put you through 2 or 3 years worth of programming. If you miss a class, you're going back for a year or two. You're going to come back home, do it again. And it was a long process. It was a bunch of years. It was most of my 20s, some of my earlier 30s. And so it was a series of starting over. Coming home, build something new, get in trouble, get a divorce, and they call the cops and say, hey, he's smoking weed. Next thing you know, you're going back for a year or two. Dumb shit like that, that was the whole point is I was always working to build something legit and good. Just happens to be that when you're going through the system, you're going through the system. Fortunately, that's not an issue anymore. It hadn't been for quite some time. So, nothing but up from there,
Good. Well, congrats on getting through that and becoming what you are today. That's a huge accomplishment. And I was wonder what your mind was. You're an entrepreneur. What was
Sure.
You had a lot of time to be thinking up business.
Oh, well, as a matter of fact, and I've done quite a few interviews, news articles, and everything else on this particular subject. But I came home with 37 business plans, full 30 to 40 page business plans, full financial projections, 1 to 5 years, everything at current market values of everything from manufacturing, cost of goods to marketing, sales, breaking them down. All of them would be able to start with $1,000 cash. Every business. That was the design.
Access to internet?
No.
Did you have access to internet?
No, I didn't. I had, my mom would send me a book every now and again. I had a girlfriend at the time that would send some stuff through email. They did have an email messaging service that was like a text-based thing. It's kind of a crazy deal, but she would send messages periodically so that I could get certain information. I'd say, hey, can you give me all the information you can find on Google from this? And, and she'd copy and paste some pages or what have you. And that's how that went. And by the time I came home, I had everything handwritten to do whatever I could possibly do. And I will tell you, none of it was possible because of life. Life happened, and 2020, everybody went to global pandemic. I came home 3 days after Christmas. Yeah, 3 days after Christmas is when I came home. So right before New Year's, right? And then we go into the global pandemic 1 month later. Yeah, 1 month later. So there was no possible way for me to go and do anything. I mean, I didn't have a house. I didn't have a home. I didn't have friends, fans, family, nothing. And didn't have the money. The money that I had saved was actually stuck in the government's treasury because their credit card machine was down when I got home. So, I tell you what, it has been a pleasure talking to you, learning more about what it is that you do in this space, and to know that I've got a personal contact in the fund space so that we can, continue to do some work together. Look, just because I've been on the decentralized nature doesn't mean that I'm staying there. I'm all about funds, wealth building, wealth generation. And now here's a question I have for you. Do you do your own fund management, or do you have a third party administrator for like distributions, tracking, things like that? Like, do you have a membership portal?
Yeah, I have a portal called Syndication Pro that handles all the investor stuff. But with the crowdfunding, it's a much more elaborate.
Sure.
Because it's a lot of work and everything, all the accounting.
I'll tell you what, John. Here's one. Maybe I can provide a little value to you today. Then go online and look at NAV Consulting. NAV Consulting. And I want to say it's NAV. NAV. Yes, Nancy Alvin Vegas. Yeah, NAV Consulting.
They have
they're a third-party administrator that takes care of everything for you. But I know the fees it's a percentage of what your fund is what it is, and it's a lot less than it could be. It has a full membership. Go ahead.
Do you know if they have affiliate with a broker-dealer?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, but that's a company that I would suggest you go through. When I was doing my research for fund management and things, that is the company that I settled on for everything that we did, just because I couldn't find anything with my own knowledge base. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you may be a lot more sophisticated in finances than I was when I started. My point is what I could understand, this company right here was the best and the most affordable for what I was trying to do, and gives full analytics. So you may want to just look into that. So
on their portal now it says global.
There you are.
What's that term you said? Decentralized.
Oh,
What's
decentralized.
That mean, decentralized.
Okay. Basically, decentralized just means that no government entity is over it. Nobody governs it. Right? It is decentralized. That's what I liked about it. When you're dealing with cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, what you're dealing with is a smart contract. All it is a digital receipt. Okay, it's a number showing a digital receipt of something that's been bought or sold. Blockchain technology allows us to never lose track of the receipts because it's shared on millions of computers and continuously, updates and goes. So you can't. It's immutable, is what it is. It's accountable and it's immutable when you're dealing with blockchain technology. Through a smart contract, all it is a little piece of code that tells the contract what to do. Like for my own contracts, it is our members get an 80% distribution or pro rata distribution per quarter of the profits, right? I don't ever have to do any of the math on that because that pro rata distribution is based on the number of tokens that they purchased, right? The collection is a 10,000 piece collection, so however many tokens you own gives you a percentage, right? The percentage ratio of the amount that you own. Therefore, if you own 10% of the collection, then you own 10% of those profits. Or you own 10% of 80% of the profits. Right. So the math does it for you. It automatically gets paid right straight to their digital wallet without having to go through a bank, without having to go through any centralized government, without having to report taxes, without having to report any capital gains at all, because it has never crossed any kind of government centralized lines. Right. Now, the moment that you take your cryptocurrency and move it into a bank, right, then you're moving it into a centralized banking system. At that point, it's recorded, there's taxes, there's everything else. So for us, the smart way of doing it is to do things to generate crypto as revenue so that we're not having to buy into it, right? You get it to generate it, and then you use that to make a centralized investment. So go out and buy a business with it. So
I'd like to consider taking crypto in my second fund. You think that's an option, a possibility?
If you don't know anything about, to accept it, to buy into the fund, yes.
Yeah.
You can do that to where they can spend crypto to buy, into your fund, and then it's as far as for you, it's the same thing. They're just allowed to use crypto to buy it, but it's going to be a centralized deal. You don't have to do anything separate on your end, right? So that's a good thing. But it really, as far as crypto and crypto exchanges and things, right now is not the time. I'll tell you, there's been just too much bad blood out there. There's just been too much. Over the last 2 years, just people that are scoundrels, scallywags, and crooks. And if you've got a reputable fund going on, I wouldn't mention crypto. Only because the moment that you do that, the people that don't know anything about it immediately have bad ideas. So if this is your first fund and you're building traction, getting people to even trust you to give you your money, you sure don't want to, throw something out there that could possibly thwart that, right? And you're not knowledgeable about it in the first place, so just stay out of it. That's how I would do. Just stay out of it. For me, I just didn't have a choice. I could not do it in a centralized nature because of the situation, right? And I had to find a way to do it. Now, through that means, I have become a centralized fund manager of sorts. Now, one thing I was going to ask you about your real estate funds, have you ever looked into transactional lending or debt funds?
I have thought about it. I don't understand. I don't know enough about it, but I like to eventually get to that.
Yeah, well,
where we have a debt
if
fund.
you want quick generation. This is one of the things that I just launched a few months ago, and it has been working. Okay, basically transactional lending. Now you understand the process of like A to B and B to C, buyers and sellers transaction. So when you go for your earnest money, most of these wholesalers don't even have the $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 it takes to actually start the process. They just don't. They don't. You think about this. Your average earnest money deposit is between 1% and 3% of a transaction, right? So in San Antonio, your average home price is $320,000, right? So $320,000, 1%, you're looking at, $3,200. So anywhere from $3,200 to $5,000 is what they're going to require at title up front in order to start that transaction. So you got some nobody wholesaler that's tried to, they've got a deal, they go to take it to do the deal, and they don't have the cash to get it going. What are they going to do? That deal's dead in the water. There's not some hard money lender that's going to give them $3,000 to $5,000. That's not the way it works in real estate. $3,000, no. So you go to a transactional lender, right, like me. Now here's the deal. You've already got the contract sold up. He's got the deal from the homeowner, and he's got a contract from the new buyer. That's what you're going to get done here, right? So there's really not a problem with you loaning him the money, but you don't just loan it to him. You do a contract so that you take it, you become a partner, you're taking that, and your contract says, I'm the one putting the money in. I'm a third-party interest putting the money in, and you're the one doing that at the title office. Now, the title office understands that you're the one that puts it in. Now, remember, you've got a 10 to 15-day period for your inspection period. Anything goes wrong, the deal goes bust, right? Okay. Since you're the lender, your contract, you just make sure. Now, really, it doesn't even have to be your contract. Most of the time, the title and escrow office has their own, and it'll be a little affidavit you sign or what have you. And it just says that if the deal goes south, you get your money back. That's it. Because in Texas, as you know, both parties have to sign off on that, or you don't get it back. So if you're a third-party lender like me, I can come in and say, hey, I'm funding this deal. If the deal goes bust, I get my money back. They've already signed theirs, waiving their right to keep it. You get it? That's how that works. So,
yeah.
Right. Now, that whole transaction should only take place 10 to 15 days, maybe 30 days, 45 at the most if something crazy goes on. I mean, it's already in the process of going. So your money comes back to you 10 days, 2 weeks, that's it. So what kind of return can you expect to get on a $3,000 to $5,000 deal? Well, your average, think about it this way. If this is residential, if I know that the average commission is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000, per home in San Antonio, I know that my little old $3,000 to $5,000 just allowed you to get $20,000 to $25,000. It sure did. So here's the question: how much is it worth to you? Is it worth 6? Is it worth 10? Would you give me $10,000 today so that you can get $25,000 in a week or two? Think about it. I mean, now I just 2x or 3x my money, right, in a days. But without that, they couldn't get the $20,000 to $30,000 commission they would have made. They're happy to do it because it's a guaranteed deal. It's almost completely risk-free on my end. Yeah, and you can do more than one deal at a time. Anyhow, John, I know I've spent most of your time, and you spent that time too. I better get off here, and you better as well.